Disobedience to court is a very bad precedent by any government, as there is no society that can prosper through lawlessness. Buhari and the Wailers. 4 months after he was sworn in as president, President Buhari promised to abide by the rule of law and insisted that his government would not tolerate anybody undermining the rule of law. But, however, few months to the tail end of this administration, the president and his government has disobeyed more than 40 court orders, according to Dr. Kolawole Olaniyan, lawyer to Amnesty International. In August 2018, while declaring open the 58th Annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association in Abuja, President Buhari shocked his audience when he attacked the rule of law by declaring that the right of Nigerians must always take a second place when national security and public interests are concerned. His Attorney General, Malemi, was also quoted to have said the rule of law is what the authorities or the government determine it to be. Only Nigeria. In 2015, just come with me on this journey, Sabo Dasuki, former national security advisor to former President Goodluck Jonathan, was charged for allegedly diverting 2.1 billion and illegal possession of firearms, $2.1 billion. Despite being granted bail on at least 6 different occasions by various courts, including the ECOWAS courts, President Buhari persistent refused to comply with order. His government and the DSS refused to comply with the order. Nigerians complained. The opposition kicked. Even as the economy, in spite of all of this, the economy was biting harder. But trust them, the APC and Buhari supporters called whoever complained a wailer and a beneficiary of corruption. The government and the SSS severally disobeyed court order of the Federal High Court in Abuja on Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's bail and accessed by his legal team and family members, including the recent one by a 3-man panel of the Court of Appeal Abuja that ruled that Nnamdi Kanu's rendition from Kenya by the Nigerian government was illegal. Anybody that complained was labeled a bad loser, wailer, or even IPOB. Enzazaki Uko, he was arrested by the military on December 14, 2015, after a clash between his child group and officers of the Nigerian Army, where at least 347 members of this group were killed. Trust, this is Nigeria. Nobody was prosecuted for the killing. Yet he was detained without trial for 17 months. His groups, as usual, took to the streets, mass protests. The opposition called on the government to comply with court orders granting him bail. Nigerians shouted that President Buhari was sliding into a full-blown dictator. But alas, the APC and Buhari supporters called whoever complained a wailer and insisted that Buhari was in order. In July 2016, the Supreme Court gave an order reaffirming the nullification of the 2006 controversial transfer of the aluminum smelting company Ascom to a Russian firm, despite the clear provisions of Section 287 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that clearly states that all court's order and judgment must be obeyed by all and sundry. The Buhari administration once again disobeyed the court order, and whoever complained was called a wailer and a beneficiary of corruption. Trust Nigerians. How about my very good friend, brother, Omoyole Sowore, the publisher of Sahara Reporter? A former and current presidential aspirant was arrested by the DSS in August 2019. And despite a Federal High Court order granting him bail, the SSS bluntly refused to release him. When we complained, APC supporters, including those who once eulogized Sowore as a hero when he criticized government or Jonathan, suddenly said, Sowore won't say done too much. Buhari means well. Wailers are just complaining and making issues out of nothing. How about judges' houses that were invaded at midnight in a Gestapo-like manner in 2018? And the Chief Justice of the Federation was removed from office arbitrarily via an ex parte order because the government, of course, wasn't comfortable with his independent-mindedness. Lawyers, the media, and politicians were divided on the matter. But APC and Buhari supporters taunted anybody when complaining. They say you be wailer or a beneficiary of corruption, that you're angry that Buhari has removed your hand from the cookie jar. In 2018, the Federal High Court in Abuja directed the federal government to set the debt limit as provided for by Section 42(1) of the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. The judgment was never obeyed, and those when complained were called wailers. In 2021, Justice Stephen Palm of the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt stopped the Federal Land Revenue (FRS) from collecting VAT, and held that it was constitutionally the role of state government to do so. Despite dismissing the application by the FRS for stay of execution pending appeal, the federal government never obeyed that order for one day. How about the court order by Justice Mohammed Idris of the Federal High Court Abuja directing the federal government to publish details of the spending of recovered funds by successive governments since 1999? This order entered voicemail and was never obeyed. If you talk about Navy Captain Dada Labinjo, who was allegedly detained in an underground detention facility by DIA in Abuja from September 12, 2018, despite the court order for his bail by his lawyer Femi Falana, the order was flouted, and APC and Buhari supporters said anybody that complained was a wailer and didn't mean well for Nigeria. After all, in the eyes of APC then, Buhari can do no wrong. Now that Buhari has redesigned the Naira note and phased out the 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira note without regard to the Supreme Court order, requesting parties to maintain status quo or allow both old and new note to coexist, pending the determination of a matter submitted for adjudication. That's Supreme Court. The table has turned 360. And like in 2018 and 2019 on the Chief Justice matter, the lawyers, the media, politicians, and Nigerians are divided on the matter. Well, depending on the political party they belong to. The APC now is complaining bitterly and insisting that the president must obey court orders, while the PDP and Labour Party opposition parties have been praising Buhari to high heavens and taunting anybody that complained as a wailer and proposed election riggers. As you now hear, the bushmeat don't catch the hunter. There's protests everywhere across the country. The economy is dwindling and things are getting harder. The hitherto wailers are now the hailers, while the real hailers have been turned into the wailers. I will therefore advocate, in democracy where the constitution is supreme and responsibility are clearly spelled out, in order for the constitution to work, you must have law-abiding people and a government willing to obey the constitution, and a people ready and willing to hold the government accountable, irrespective of party loyalty or affiliation. When you encourage your government to disobey court order because it doesn't affect you, or because it affects you, it favors you, you are indirectly setting a precedent that encourages impunity and will eventually snowball into anarchy and dictatorship. By that time, just pray that country will every day for you to govern. Well, this will be a good place to rest this matter for now. Until next week, kindly follow us on all our social media platforms shown on your screen. And remember, as you go out to the polls, please, I beg of you, remain peaceful. Support your candidate. Don't be intimidated and don't intimidate others. Politicians won't die for you. So remain alive to live your life. See you next week.